Whoosh! Wowee! It's News 30 and we're late for the appointment for the news. So hop on the news train because here is some more of it. The Trump administration revealed that it would launch a worldwide campaign to decriminalize homosexuality. And I thought I would take this opportunity to talk about all of the good that President Donald Trump has done. There's a popular idea called Trump derangement syndrome, where anything he does is bad, and anything bad is his fault. And I would agree that there is some reflexive outrage in regards to him, and I wonder why an obvious con man who does crimes and constantly lies would be not trusted by anybody, but whatever. I don't want to succumb to that. Nobody likes having syndromes. So today, here are good things the president has done. We're going to give him the benefit of the doubt of the deal. Launching a worldwide campaign to decriminalize homosexuality seems good. One could, of course, argue that his choice of vice president and some of the policies he's put forward are not necessarily pro-gay or pro-LGBTQ. Do we have a comment from the president saying he's pro-LGBTQ in a believable way?
I will do everything in my power to protect our LGBTQ citizens.
So no, then. But again, this is benefit of the doubt, all right? In a vacuum, it's a good thing to launch a global campaign to decriminalize homosexuality. The report specifies Iran, which may be a bit odd considering the gay rights records of allies like Saudi Arabia and Russia, and Trump appointing warmonger specifically with Iran, John Bolton. And it's weird that his administration also canceled the visas of unmarried partners of foreign diplomats, which negatively affects gay couples because they'd either have to get married or leave, whereas the whole point is that they can't get married because it's illegal in certain countries, so marrying would be quite the risk for them. But wait. I feel like I'm succumbing to the Trump derangement syndrome thing. I want to like a thing that he does. So a campaign to decriminalize homosexuality. I'm on board, despite your other actions. So what do you have to say about this good thing you definitely thought of, support, and care about?
Decriminalize homosexuality. Are you doing that and why?
Say it.
Okay, maybe he didn't hear. Okay, so just repeat yourself.
You're supposed to decriminalize homosexuality around the world.
I don't know which report you're talking about. We have many reports.
What? Kind of seems like this is the Trump derangement syndrome, like you're sprayed with a fire hose of contradictory statements and actions and evidence, so maybe nothing he says should be taken at face value or any value because he just says stuff and is a liar. And when you ask about the good thing he allegedly supports, he says, I don't know what you're talking about. I wonder why people feel a little exhausted and, deranged. But that's not what we're here for today, all right? Good stuff from Trump. We're going to do this. We're going to. So, some more common ground. Here's some news. Give peace a chance. War is bad. The president announced he was going to pull out of Syria because
Great nations do not fight endless wars.
Now, one could probably question Trump's motivations regarding pulling out of Syria, considering he says we defeated ISIS and also we gotta defeat ISIS. Also considering this is an action desired by Vladimir Putin, who Donald Trump believes over every person within his employ, and then he goes off and says, Russia hates that I'm doing this, when no they don't. So that's weird. And selling nuclear technology to the Saudis and pulling out of a Cold War era deal with Russia resulting in nuclear proliferation, also weird. But, hey, less war, giving him the benefit of the doubt. Sure, reports indicate that we're not leaving Syria and we're leaving hundreds of troops behind, but when asked about it, he said, we're not reversing course. So, also?
The 2,500 people that we've had there will be going to different parts of the world. They may be going over to Iraq, where we have a very powerful base, a base that cost billions of dollars to build, frankly, and that we'll be using.
So, to clarify, great nations don't fight endless wars. They withdraw a lot of troops, leave a bunch of other troops, and move thousands of troops from one war zone to another ongoing war zone. So, gotcha! Fake news. I'm the anti-war president. Speaking of anti-war, the president really wants to do some wars and take some oil, so maybe he doesn't deserve the benefit of the doubt on much of anything. Yes, here's some more news. America sure seems like it's doing a coup in Venezuela. Now, there's lots to say about what's going on in Venezuela, and we'll probably talk about it at length in the future. But for now, we're here to talk about the positives, all right? President Donald Trump is a humanitarian, and he wants to send humanitarian aid to Venezuela, despite humanitarian groups saying it's not a great idea and clearly a political move. But speaking of humanitarian, according to the president himself, humanitarian means helping a country in need and then demanding more than half of their oil as payment.
We could have had 50% of those oil fields. You know, in the old days when you had a war, it's to the victor belong the spoils.
He would never use humanitarian aid as a guise to provide weapons for and in support of a coup. So if I may, this just in, here's some more news. The administration has appointed as envoy to Venezuela Mr. Elliott Abrams, a man whose first day on the job as Assistant Secretary of State for Human Rights and Humanitarian Affairs in the Reagan administration involved lying about a gruesome massacre done by troops trained by the U.S. military. This culminated in him as Assistant Secretary of State for Inter-American Affairs lying to Congress about the Iran-Contra affair, which involved illegally selling weapons to Iran and using proceeds to fund the Contras, in part by using humanitarian aid as a cover. But perhaps it's a coincidence. You never know. You know, we're here to give Donald Trump the benefit of the doubt in regards to him stopping war, despite everything he says and does, including ballooning the military budget every year. Apropos of nothing, here's some more news. Former acting director of the FBI, Andrew Mccabe, has released a book revealing a lot of crazy things that the president has said and a lot of behind-the-scenes moments that paint the president as an unhinged, possibly traitorous warmongering maniac. For example, at one point, the president of the United States, Donald Trump, asked why we aren't at war with Venezuela, because they have all the oil and they're right at our back door. First of all, very brave of this American hero to wait 2 years to reveal that information on a book tour. But as you know, the president often talks about what a liar Andrew Mccabe is, you know, and how we shouldn't trust him because he really botched the Clinton Foundation investigation. Except the thing Trump always refers to but never fully explains is that Andrew Mccabe was getting pressure to stop the investigation into the Clinton Foundation because it was using too many resources and some people didn't think that there was enough there. And McCabe's decision, that Donald Trump allegedly hates, was to keep the investigation into the Clinton Foundation open and to keep allocating resources despite all of that pressure. So maybe Donald lock her up Trump isn't actually mad about that, and rather is mad that McCabe's telling the truth about the things Donald has said and done. But who knows? You know, maybe Donald Trump doesn't want to go to war with the country for their oil under the guise of humanitarian aid, despite him literally talking 8 years ago on his personal vlog, saying literally we should help this country on a humanitarian basis and as payment take more than half of their oil. Oh, how could we have known? Also, here's John Bolton talking about how much money we can make from the, skimming, gonna skim this, skimming, oil. So, as much as I'd like to not succumb to Trump derangement syndrome and actually find a good thing to say about him, maybe most of the things he does are bad. And if he stumbles over a fart into a good idea, he's doing it for the wrong reasons and will end up not doing it for real anyway. But we're going to keep trying. We're going to find a good thing to be like, good job, buddy, at. Decriminalizing homosexuality, anti-war. These are all topics that I've chosen. See, so maybe that's not fair or balanced or trademarked, copyrighted, all rights reserved. So what does he want to talk about, you know? Well, he's really mad at that actor who filed a fake police report for a fake hate crime, and when it was discovered, it was universally condemned, so maybe the president didn't need to weigh in on it and call him a racist. Or maybe he could have been like, this is a really bad thing he did. Hate crimes are real, and there are very few fake ones, and this is a detriment to real victims, and I certainly won't use this to say everyone's racist but me. Or maybe he could mention, here's some more news. A member of the Coast Guard, the United States military, was discovered to be a literal white supremacist obsessed with anti-PC, anti-cultural Marxist terrorist Anders Breivik. And the man was caught stockpiling weapons and planning to kill journalists and politicians who weirdly seemed to be all of Donald Trump's perceived enemies. Enemies of the people. Perhaps it's not a symptom of Trump derangement syndrome to feel like you're going fucking insane because white nationalists feel emboldened by the election of Donald Trump, and he can't seem to grasp that or address it properly ever. But again, we're trying to give the president the benefit of the doubt. So let's just ask him what he thinks about the future terrorist in the Coast Guard who wanted to kill everyone Donald Trump regularly attacks.
Do you think that you bear any responsibility for moderating your language when it comes to that?
No, I don't. I think my language is very nice.
Gah. Also,
I'm actually getting a very final briefing and a very complete briefing in about 2 hours after this.
but his schedule is available for us to see. And in a couple hours, he was scheduled to meet with the vice premier of the People's Republic of China. And then, I don't know, take a nap in front of Fox News before heading to give remarks at the Andrew W. Mellon Auditorium. So that's a weird thing. Sounds like a lie. And maybe you didn't even know about it and just said, oh yeah, I'm gonna get briefed on that because you weren't prepared and are very defensive about the nasty words you use for everybody, specifically everybody that guy wanted to kill. And this actually brings me back to him being asked about a global initiative to decriminalize homosexuality and then needing the person to repeat it. And then once the question was repeated, saying, I don't know what you're talking about. Now this is interesting because normally when the president is asked something he doesn't know about, he usually very confidently says something made up, whether it's praising the thing he doesn't know about because he wants credit for it, or he says, I'm going to be briefed on it in a little bit, like he did about the terrorist. And it's just interesting that he didn't say, oh yeah, decriminalizing homosexuality, which is good, and I support the program, which I know about. He chose to say, I don't know what you're talking about. And that's just interesting. Oh boy! It's a little hard to find something good that he's done. And I'm not just gonna be like, well, the economy continued to do well after he was elected. Sorry, doesn't count. So maybe what I care about or what he's been asked about the past few days aren't good metrics. Maybe we should just go back to what he wanted to do, what he promised the voters. So let's take a quick look at Donald Trump's contract with the American voter, his pledge to America. And to be even more fair, let's only cover the literal first thing he promises. Propose a constitutional amendment to impose term limits on all members of Congress. Now, this isn't a bad idea, because so much of Congress is spent thinking about re-election, raising money, pleasing donors. Money in politics is a problem. And even if you've been in Congress for decades, maybe that doesn't mean that you actually represent what people need and want. And right before he died, Twitter funny man and Congressman John Dingell wrote a piece saying the way to save our democracy and fix Congress is to get money out of politics, publicly fund elections, and abolish the Senate. But also experience is important. In general, maybe term limits are a good thing. I don't know. I'm not here to judge that. I just know it's literally the first thing the president wanted to do. Now, it's hard to say whether or not this is possible or probable, but it's possible to say that the path to success is a constitutional amendment, and that constitutional amendment has already been written by Ted Theodore Cruz. Seen here. The amendment limits senators to 2 terms and representatives to 3 terms. Of course, this amendment doesn't affect current members of Congress until after it's enacted, so let's say you're a senator in your 2nd term, and you pass this important amendment to limit senators to 2 terms. Well, you, my friend, get 4 terms. But anyway, this isn't something that the president has abandoned. He brings it up occasionally. So in the interest of the benefit of the doubt, let's hear what he has to say very recently about whether or not he thinks Congressman Steve King should run for Congress again.
I don't know anything about the situation. When did he announce that?
Today.
I have not seen it. He hasn't told me anything, so.
Now, Steve King is somebody the president has described as his ideological twin, basically. Somebody who he doesn't even need to talk to know that they agree on stuff. They're on the same page. Like, here's Steve King describing the zoo-like qualities of building a wall back in 2006. Steve King, of course, has a history of racist comments that have been dismissed by many members of Congress until he finally said that it's a shame we can't call ourselves white supremacists and white nationalists anymore. Now, the president obviously could have said, well, no, I don't think Congress has any place for a person like that. The things he said are unacceptable. I don't support them. He's racist. And I've actually, reflected on some of our similar ideas and realized that maybe they come from a racist place. And I'm reconsidering a lot of things. But no, he shouldn't run for Congress because he's a racist. That's too much to ask of a dim, racist president who can find the time to call Jussie Smollett a racist, but not Congressman Steve King a racist. But that's not why we're talking about this, all right? Because an easy out for the president in this situation might have been, well, Congressman King is in his 9th term in Congress, and I think we should have term limits in Congress. So no, I don't think he should run again. End of answer. Also, here's some more news. A couple of days ago, for no reason, Donald Trump hopped on Twitter to publicly endorse Senator John Cornyn for re-election for his 4th term in Congress in 2020, even though it's currently February 2019. So, I don't know. Getting real Trump derangement syndrome all up in here. I guess we should move on. We tried the first item. I'll see what else we got, all right? Let's see what else. He says replace Obamacare. No, we're not gonna. Okay, so let's do the last one, all right? We did the first, it didn't go great. Let's do the very last one on his contract with the American voter. The Clean Up Corruption in Washington Act, which enacts new ethics reforms to drain the swamp and reduce the corrupting effects of special interests on our politics. So I guess here are some examples of not that to put up on the screen. Also, maybe there are some ethics violations from Donald Trump's cabinet, literally several, literally just this week, and regularly since his presidency began. And maybe we could even ask him about them. Yeah, not that one, not that one, not that one. There we go, that's the one. Fun. Current Labor Secretary and former U.S. Attorney for the Southern District of Florida, Alex Acosta, has been alleged to have broken the law in how he handled the sex trafficking case involving pedophile Jeffrey Epstein, who was a longtime friend of Bill Clinton, Donald Trump, and a lot of other people who've flown Epstein's plane, lovingly referred to as the Lolita Express. Trump, who has previously described Epstein as a fun guy who loves women even more than he does, maybe even younger than he does. Interesting choice of words by the president, who presents himself as a hero battling sex trafficking to the point that there's a bonkers-ass cult forming around the idea. But let's see what the anti-sex trafficking good-brained hero has to say about his labor secretary's alleged misconduct regarding the sex trafficking case involving his friend Jeff Epstein.
I really don't know too much about it. I know he's done a great job as labor secretary.
Very helpful and good. Anything else?
That seems like a long time ago, but I know he's been a fantastic labor secretary.
Well, as long as it was a long time ago. Speaking of a long time ago, and the president's support of senators and how he seems to regularly support and be associated with sex offenders and pedophiles, and also speaking of the president being super against the criminalization of homosexuality, pedophile Roy Moore, who was endorsed by Donald Trump, was quoted in 2005, a long time ago, as saying, quote,
homosexual conduct
should be
illegal. Yes.
Should be illegal.
Yes.
Anyway, moving on. Actually, wait. That. Do we have a second clip of him saying that?
Do you still think that homosexuality should be illegal?
I think homosexuality should be illegal.
Okay. Now moving on. Speaking of draining the swamp and stopping special interests influencing our politics, here's some more news. The president nominated as the U.S. ambassador to the UN Kelly Knight Craft, a Republican mega-donor whose husband owns one of the largest coal mining companies in the country, who has donated more than $2 million to Trump, and who has been rewarded gold status in Trump card rewards due to the high number of stays at the president's hotels, which he's definitely not profiting from. Anyway, she'll be representing the United States on issues like climate change. And here's what the wife of a coal baron has to say about climate change.
Do you yourself believe in climate change?
I believe there are sciences that are both on both sides that are accurate.
Okay. Some more good things the president has done. We don't want we don't want to fall victim to Trump derangement syndrome. So we're gonna That's the end of that. Thanks for being here. Click like and subscribe and leave a comment. And check out our patreon.com/somemorenews if you'd like to support us. And our podcast, Even More News, if you'd like to listen to us. And you are good.